Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're taking a look at the prototype for Terrors of London by Colossal Games.
So of course, this being a prototype, some of the images that you see may change, some of the iconography may change slightly, when the retail version comes out, but we're going to dive into it. This game is a fast-paced deck builder, head
versus head.
Head versus head.
My head versus your head.
You're going to battle. It's a lot like Star Realms. If you've played Star Realms, then you'll know how to play this game, kind of. There's comboing by making hordes with your monsters, but it's very similar to the comboing, but it's harder to pull off.
Yeah, there's a lot more strategy, and you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to buy a bunch of this color and it'll work. Well, not harking on Star Realms, but you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to go red and crush. You really have to
diversify.
You have to diversify, because if you just get a bunch of one color, it's actually bad for you.
Yeah.
That
happened in one of my games. So I just kept buying a blue because I was like, that's the only one I can afford. And I'm like, wait, I can't trigger anything. I just keep getting them. Like, well, he doesn't trigger, he doesn't trigger, he doesn't trigger.
And it's just bad at games. Always has been, always will be.
So one of the big differences between this and a game like Star Realms is that this is a much heavier hitter. I feel like Star Realms is a lot of like, all right, 2 damage, I heal 3, you heal 2 more damage, 5 damage, and like, oh, I did 10 damage. It's a huge turn. And this game, things like that happen all the time. It's, like Tom said, it was really quick paced, partly because you're both just hitting each other with so much damage, and even though there is like healing, you can go up a little bit, it never is like, oh, I hit you for 3, oh, I healed for 5. It's always like, I hit you for 12, and you're like, I healed 2. So things like that help the game go really, really fast and make it so you can play multiple rounds back to back to back, and it's like nothing.
I feel like the scenario you said could happen, but it would be really hard to, because there is a decent amount of heal in some of the cards, like that one that I have that did 5 to you and healed me 5. So not to say that there's like no heal in the deck, but what actually AJ told me the first time I sat down to play this game at Dice Tower Con is he was like, so think about this. In Star Realms or in any deck builder, there's generally more purchasing than there is attack or whatever other currency you have. In this, it's completely flipped up. Purchasing is more rare. And I was like, oh, okay, and that's very true. You won't be buying as many cards because the game will be over like that.
So there are a couple cards, the artifact cards, that will actually help you with your purchasing. They stay in play kind of like a base in Star Realms or a location in the DC deck building games. You put it in play, it'll give you an ability each turn. It can be destroyed by other players. It's a little more rare of getting destroyed, kind of like in DC, where you put that location in play and it kind of stays out there probably the whole game. Like, people can get things that make everybody discard a location. But in here, if you were to compare it like Star Realms, when you put a base in play, like anybody can just attack it and do damage to it. Like, once you get these artifacts, they're there until somebody gets a destroy card. Mm-hmm. And it kind of depends on the shuffle of the deck. You could not get one for a long time, and they just keep using this ability turn after turn. And you're like, I need to destroy that.
But I mean, you do have a limit of 3, so it can't get too overpowered, which
3's a lot still.
3 is still a lot when they're this powerful, though. That does matter. And again, not like we're harking on Star Realms, but there are those times when you just get base, or like I would play it on the app where like I can't even see all my bases. I have to click here to like cycle through to see all the bases that I have in play. That kind of thing won't happen here, again, because the whole thing is just jump in each other's face and just attack and pow, pow, pow. Like, you do hit the ground running because you do start with 2 cards from your faction already in your deck that trigger based off of the faction color that you want.
Helionix.
Yeah, kind of like Helionix. Helionix, we don't need to do that again. But the whole thing is you're supposed to feel like pressure every turn. Like, you don't have time to just sit around and, okay, I'll grow my deck and I'll get some of this and maybe I'll go like this. You're just like, nope, I need a boom. Every turn matters. If you have a really bad draw, you're like, uh-oh.
I will say that's one really interesting thing is starting out with 2 of your faction cards. So you pick from the starting deck. You're like, oh, what do I want to? You can kind of like cater your deck to how you feel like playing. And like most starter decks, it's like we both get the same thing, but we can start with something slightly different, and then those cards can be upgraded if you buy a faction card of your type. It'll like trigger its bottom ability like Star Realms. So like that's really cool to have this starter card that's different from yours, but it also becomems better later.
Mm-hmm.
And of course,
Differently.
you have the ability that the guy
player
itself
ability.
has. So like you do have a lot of asymmetrical. I don't know if asymmetrical is maybe like an asymmetrical start.
Yeah.
You have a lot of asymmetrical start and customizability within that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Interesting.
I do think the comboing is one of the things that sets Terrors of London apart from other deck builders, where it's not just like, oh, this is a card, and if I play a card of this faction, this ability triggers, but it actually matters like where you play them in your lineup, where like, okay, well, this has to be next to a red card to trigger, and then if those combo each other, you pick like which one gets the ability, because it's like hoarding. So like this hoard of 2 cards, one of them's going to trigger, and if you add a third card to that hoard, okay, well now you get to pick one of these 2 cards that are comboing. But like if you already used like the right side trigger on this card with this card, you can't like put another card to trigger off that ability.
Yeah, so like it's like this blue needs a red next to it, and I have 2 reds. I can't get the trigger off of both those 2 reds. I have to pick which one to go, and then this other red is just gonna, maybe I can start another horde, but maybe I can't. That's again that like you have to know which card. I bought this card and it wants these cards, so I need to buy these cards next. Never just buy this one.
And it also is when you're playing your cards, you have to kind of, it's not just like, all right, this is what I have and this is how it works. You have to really think like, all right, this is going to pair with this. And if I buy that, I can put this here and then draw it with that and put it here so that this can pair with that. So like that kind of analyzing before you play anything is a big part of how this game really shines.
So if you can't tell, I really like this game. I've always loved deck builders, and this is no exception. It like they've both said, it really packs a punch. It's quick, it's fast. There's a lot of interesting, things that combo. There's these like tokens that you can get that we didn't even really talk about, that you can have cards that stay in play from round to round. Well, they'll stay in for 1 extra round, and then the muster cards, which allow you muster tokens allow you to muster more cards at the end of your turn, so you're drawing up a bigger horde. It's a lot of cool stuff going on, and if you like deck builders, if you like Star Realms, I think you'll like this game.
I definitely agree with Aaron. This is another solid deck builder. I personally think it has enough uniqueness that if you're like, well, I already have Star Realms, so I really need Terrors of London. And there are definitely games out there where I'm like, well, because of this deck builder and this deck builder, maybe not. But honestly, I think that this goes really well next to Star Realms. It has enough differences about it and enough unique, cool things that I don't see why you wouldn't want to add this to your shelf as well. The one slight caution I'll have, and I've said this about a few games, is that the artwork is pretty dark. Almost to the point of it not really being like family friendly if you have small kids. But I know there's tons of people out there that this is what's going to draw them to this game. Like, Star Wars is good, but have you seen the artwork in this? So if that's your thing, this game's right up your alley. If you're a little on the fence about it, just, pay attention, scroll through the page a little bit, check out the artwork, and then make your decision from there.
Well, there isn't much more for me to say that these nerds haven't already said, except I guess I'll kind of repeat what Wes said, in that if you already have Star Realms or Hero Realms or whatever, I'd still highly recommend that you have this in addition to that. I own everything for Star Realms and Cthulhu Realms. I don't have Hero Realms, but I still want to add this to my collection in addition to that, because this game packs a punch. It's like every card is so heavy hitting, and I'm even thinking, I'm like, wow, I could play this game 2 times in a row and never see the same cards come out. Like, you can burn through the whole deck in some deck building games, and sometimes that's even like a trigger for the end of the game. Well, we have to get through this whole deck. But you could probably only buy like 10 cards in the whole game, and still that's what like makes you win, because the cards are so, again, heavy hitting. If any of what we've been talking about in this video sounds interesting to you and you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to put a link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description box down below. Or someone's going to put a card. I'm not going to do it.
I do the cards.
He does the cards.
Or if you're already on Kickstarter, just go ahead and scroll back up. The big green back button's there. I recommend you click on it.
Either way, you should subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.
I did a sideways kind of
I did
time.
too. Man, this whole video, Tom's like, oh, Star Realms, hark, hark, hark. Hark, hark, Star Realms, hark.